as if trying at all costs to avoid the questions. There was something off about her. Vedanta shook his head as he grabbed the woman's hair. The manager gasped. It was a fake. He tossed it on the ground. Standing in front of him was a man in disguise. Sell yourself the way you want to. It's your choice. But don't be ashamed of it by hiding behind a woman's image. He had seen in other cities when he had traveled, rulers of his kind complaining how they had ordered for a woman at a brothel but found a man. And for these men who sold themselves, it was their own preference. It was surely against the rules of the gods, but those rules were written a long time back. Things were different then, and Vedanta didn't mind all of it now. But prostitution was still illegal in Kikatpur. You all stood there while my ministers were murdered, one by one, and you are saying you didn't see anything. His voice had an impassive quality, almost shriveling others with the sheer menace it held. Either you speak now or this brothel shuts down, and you all go to prison for soliciting sex. He would do that even if they would tell him the truth. But that was a good leverage he could play around with right now. The manager was crying. He was a wimp. But then, there was hesitance. Vedanta walked to the woman and stood there. Yes, you want to say something? All of it happened while we were sleeping alongside them. The woman had a way with her words. She was afraid to look at him, but her words showed no fear. It had seemed like the person was waiting for us to fall asleep. All of you were sleeping? Sleeping, yes, they said in unison. Vedanta narrowed his eyes. His ministers were calculatedly murdered, perhaps given a drug-laced wine to make the job easier. Has anyone seen, by any chance? A hand went up. Vedanta walked to it. Yes, the woman had blue eyes, and was perhaps a Naga. I woke up earlier than I was supposed to and I saw the figure. This is something. Yes, please tell me. He waited, curiosity burning his mind. The person saw me, ERM, and it ran right through the window. What was it wearing? A shawl wrapped around the face. It was all covered. Anything in particular that stood out? Vedanta waited while the woman concentrated really hard, her mouth pursing and her eyes squeezing tight in contemplation. Yes, she sighed, her eyes widening with a sense of realization. Vedanta's heart thumped. This could be a little clue to find the culprit. The person, whoever it was in a hurry. When it leapt from the window, I was able to glance at the hair due to the wind. Yes, it was the hair I could see. What's so special about that? My kingship, she said. It was silver in color, and we all know, not many silver-haired people walk in this city. Lord Kali didn't really worry about finding Chief Martanja. Like every other Rakshas, he would be sitting in his building, or perhaps working his way through the street, marching his soldiers. But most likely, he would be in a tavern, drinking sura and enjoying the little things in life. Coco and Vikoko found him wasted in such an establishment. Kali entered, seeing the man reeking of liquor. For a Rakshas, this was a surprising sight. Rakshas were disciplined men from the south, working their way up to the top. They were quite extraordinary, and yet the paramilitary chief of Rakshas was here, in this state. Surely, if Rakpa found out, Martanja would have a hard time explaining his lackadaisical attitude to him. Unlike Martanja, Rakpa didn't have a bad day. His bad days were the good days, and his good days were his better days. It was perhaps the one eye that troubled Martanja. Man who is wounded sees more folly in himself than a man who has no wounds. At the sound of Kali's boots, Martanja fidgeted, but he continued to remain half asleep. Kali looked at his guards, who weren't drinking, but rather kneeling behind him. Kali always liked this kind of respect, for it gave him a boost of confidence and made him feel good about himself. Kali sat on the opposite chair, one leg on top of another. He didn't do anything but sat there watching the man. Drinking made pathetic losers out of the strongest of men. That was one reason why, despite all his other vices, he kept drinks at an abeyance. Coco came forward and shook Martanja. He was dumbfounded for a moment, before he realized it was Kali's personal guard who had the temerity to wake him up. He frantically came to his feet, spilling the wine in the process when he saw Kali. Sorry. He blinked hard. It's all right. Kali waved at him with a friendly grin. Sure, don't worry. We all deserve a rest, right? Martanja watched him for a moment, as if Lord Kali, the usurper of Indragarh, had really said what he thought he had just said. I was ill a while back and I rested, and I'm fine now. What's wrong with your hair? Kali felt anger surging inside him. No one should talk about his hair, not even a mild chief of a stupid tribe. He had a few sparse tufts growing unevenly over his scalp, while his face was getting duller by the day. It's Maya, It's my illness, nothing else. I will be fine. Martanja must have sensed his insecurity, for he leaned forward. You know, I heard what happened to you. Rumors are poison, surely you know that? But if it's true, the rumors, my lord, then I am positive you were poisoned. Martanja smiled foolishly, looking at Kali. Now I'm not pointing anything out, my lord. He had a way of speaking, his words slipping and half-eaten. Not the most coherent words Kali had ever heard someone speak. But you must really watch your back. There's a saying in Elam. It goes like, the winners often have arrows in their backs from the very ones they love. Kali nodded. I have heard that. That's why I have them. He signaled at Coco and Vikopo, who straightened at being mentioned by their lord. Loyalists, Martanja nodded back. And why have I been honored with your company, my lord? What kind of deed have I done, good or bad? Kali pulled out a small vial from the pocket of his tunic, which he sipped. What is this, really? He signaled at the vial. Martanja took the vial of blue liquid. And why do you ask a humble Rakshas, my lord? Because Kali leaned forward, fingers clasping together, his face half hidden in the shadows of the room. I got to know what you two did. And it was not nice. Durukti is an impulsive child. She sees terror and she seeks a solution. She saw her brother probably dying and she tried to help, regardless of the consequences. But that isn't the problem. No, the problem is the very place she sought for the remedy. Now, he picked up the vial, studying the glinting blue liquid. I want to know what this is that is helping me. She says it's an extract from a herb, but I don't believe it. I feel it's something else. It's something out of this world. After all, Martanja chided him. And why don't you ask your sister? Kali couldn't. He felt embarrassed about doubting her and showing his suspicion. She would hate him for that. Ever since the beginning, their love had been unconditional and nothing had come in between it. It was just her and him, against the world. You are nervous around her, my lord.